What if the very place you went to for love and safety became the source of your deepest wounds? In this episode of the Flying Free podcast, I sit down with Katherine Spearing to talk about the subtle, insidious nature of spiritual abuse, how patriarchy has fueled it for centuries, and what healing can actually look like on the other side. If you've ever been told, God doesn't want your happiness, he wants your holiness, then this conversation is going to challenge everything you thought you knew about faith, love, and freedom. Today we have with us Katherine Spearing. She is the founder of Tears of Eden, which is a nonprofit that supports survivors of spiritual abuse. She's also the former executive producer and host of the Uncertain podcast that pioneered pivotal conversations around spiritual abuse. She's a certified trauma recovery practitioner who works with clients who have survived cults, high control environments, spiritual abuse, and sexual abuse. And she has a brand new book out called A Thousand Tiny Paper Cuts: The Subtle, Insidious Nature of Spiritual Abuse and Life on the Other Side. So today, guess what we're going to be talking about?
Woo-hoo!
Spiritual abuse.
Spiritual abuse.
Exactly. Religious trauma, and also how the patriarchy has been a powerful weapon all throughout history that has propagated both. So welcome, Katherine.
I am so excited to be hanging out with you again, Natalie.
Awesome. Okay. So let's just dive in for anyone who is not sure what there was a time when I didn't know what spiritual abuse was.
Me too.
And
Absolutely.
So why don't we talk about spiritual abuse and maybe a little bit about how it's different from other forms of abuse that people might be more familiar with, like physical abuse or emotional or psychological abuse.
Yeah. So one thing similar to other forms of abuse is it can be an umbrella term that under other forms of abuse fall underneath, or it can be its own form of abuse that is very direct and overt. I define it in my book as when someone is deliberately using God or the Bible to coerce, manipulate, control, shame, exploit, all of those things. And it gets a little complicated within a high control religious environment because you'll have people in that setting really intentionally wielding the Bible to intentionally control people. Then you'll have just as many, probably more people, good, decent human beings doing the exact same thing, believing that they're doing what God wants them to do. And that when they're doing it, they are being loving to you because that is the way they have been conditioned to operate. And that is way more complex and way more painful, in my opinion, than the person who is doing it on purpose, but very complex.
I'm glad you brought that up because, most of the people that I have been in that have, spiritually abused me, they didn't know, like they would never think of themselves as being abusive or intentionally trying to hurt anyone. They thought they were genuinely doing what was going to be the most helpful to me.
Yeah. And it's so confusing, right? Because they believe it so deeply. And so like how, if you feel bad when it's coming at you, then you're like basically feel like you're rejecting their love, which is then a whole messy pile of crap.
Exactly. It kind of falls under the umbrella of relationships. This is just what we do in Christian relationships. I mean, if we're going to be honest here, I was spiritually abusive to people too, because I was telling them what they should and shouldn't do based on what I believed that the Bible was teaching. And So, wow.
Yeah.
So what are some like more subtle examples of spiritual abuse that people might miss because it is so normalized in these environments?
Yeah. Well, one that I was thinking about this morning and actually texting with some friends about this morning. And right now, I don't think it's subtle. I think it's powerful and at the heart of all of the abuse, but it is so normalized in high control religious environments that it has a flavor of subtlety because we're just so used to it. If you've ever heard a sermon on God doesn't want your happiness, he wants your holiness. And
Mm,
that being one, we're so conditioned to do the right thing, to sacrifice, martyrdom, suppress our desires. And it's so embedded into the culture. I feel like it's like kind of at the core of all of it, but
yeah.
because it's just this baked in thing within the culture of high control Christianity, like we don't even see it, right? It's just so normalized. And why,
Yeah.
women stay within abusive marriages, and people are like, well, why did you stay if you weren't happy? Well, we don't even have a category for happiness. We don't.
Exactly. Well, it's not really, is it even, I mean, is it even really fundamentally allowed in some ways?
Right. Are you even allowed to have your own desires? Like,
Yeah.
it's like a dirty word, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Autonomy is a dirty word. Happiness is a dirty
Selfish, it
word.
means you're pursuing
Yeah.
selfishness and yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that we do this to ourselves, and we also do it to other people where we say, like, if we're trying to encourage someone to stay married, we're telling them, because I did this. I actually
Mm-hmm.
did this with a
Yeah.
friend of mine whose husband was cheating on her, and she was trying to decide, do I file for divorce or not? And I remember pacing my living room floor, having a phone conversation with her, and saying, God wants you to stay. And it's not, I really did. I don't know how I worded it, but really what was going through my head was, it's not about your happiness. This is not about you getting
Mm-hmm.
out and then finding happiness somewhere. This is about you
Yeah.
doing the right thing. We need to do
Right.
the right thing, and God will
Right.
reward you if you do the right thing. And I believe
Yeah.
that for me too. That's why I mean, I
Yeah.
was in the middle of an abusive relationship also, but very
Absolutely.
committed to doing the right thing.
Mm.
And even getting out, a lot of times mothers who get out, their older children who've been raised in this, because the moms,
Mhm.
I believed it, I taught my kids this, they're
Yeah.
looking at their mom going, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you pursuing like your own happiness? And at the moment when I was getting out, at the moment I was thinking, I am not happy,
Yeah.
and getting out is not making me happy either. Like
Yeah.
I'm not seeking after happiness. I'm seeking after peace and just like
Right.
a feeling
Just
of
a very
rest and sanity.
small.
That's it. Like I don't want
Yeah.
happiness. I would never
Yeah.
deign to think that happiness could be mine. I just want
Yeah.
like people to leave me alone and let me not hurt so bad, you
Yeah.
know?
And like just I'm like suffering. It's not even a question of I want to be happy. It's like I'm suffering so much, like life and death to some extent, right? Like we are
Yes,
so miserable. And it's like I'm just choosing to just be alive for a little bit. Like we're not
exactly.
even at a place where we can even consider our own happiness
Exactly. I
at
just
that
want to breathe.
time.
I just want to
Yes, I
breathe.
just want to breathe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does this impact their relationship with God then? I mean, when they have these people, when they have people like me telling you, you have to stay in your marriage, or you're not doing the right thing by God, by your relationship with God,
Right.
then how does that impact their relationship with God when that's what they're thinking? They're kind of associating God with all of those ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess, I mean, I talk about this in my book a little bit about because I was in a domestic violence situation, but in the environment that I was in, it was daughters weren't allowed to leave their father's home and to leave their father's authority. And so I was an adult within this context. And so it was a domestic violence situation, just not a marriage. And I remember I was like so miserable. And there was this little part of me, and I was not taught God is love. Like that was not something that I was
Oh,
taught. I
interesting.
I read that in the Bible myself when I read the Bible, but that was like this God wants your holiness, not your happiness. God wants you to serve him. You're on this earth to figure out what God wants from you and to do that, whatever it may be. And there wasn't this narrative of there is this loving God, there's this God of grace there, like, and I found that kind of on my own. And I
Mm.
just remember thinking when I made the choice the first time that I made the choice to like rebel and to not do what my father told me to do, I remember thinking, like, a God of love can't be okay with this. Like a God of love can't be okay with this. And if God is a God of love, if
Mhm.
maybe, then if I'm making a mistake by saying no, then this God of love will forgive me. And like that kind of just being how I justified making this choice. And
Mhm.
like, I'm doing this with good intent. Maybe God will be okay with this. Maybe God will be gracious in this uh situation. And I think for every individual it is very complex and it is very unique, very common thing for someone leaving a high control religious environment is this feeling, this phobia of God is going to strike me down by lightning.
Yes.
And like I have rebelled and that God is coming after me. And no one may have ever said that is what God will do if you quote unquote disobey. Again, so baked into the culture that if I am not doing it exactly this way, and if I dare to think, I just want to breathe, as you said
Mhm.
earlier, and I just need to get away so I can just live and survive, that some God is going to come after me in some way. My life is going to be terrible. My life, and it is a struggle, right? Like those initial months and years right after leaving are so hard.
Mhm.
It's very easy to internalize. It's hard because I quote unquote disobeyed, even though it's just hard because life is hard, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Life is hard for everybody.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And when we're dealing with trauma and trying to start a new life or a new career or a new relationship, it's just challenging, right? And we're
Yep.
taught to believe that if it's hard, then we must not be doing something right, which
Yep.
then leads to us, because life is just hard, right?
Yep.
Suppressing all of the hard things and pretending they're not happening within this community. Anyway, so
Yeah.
many far reaching tendrils of
I know,
this.
I know. As you're talking, I'm like, there's so many things I want to say in response. I recently, just actually this last week, I answered a question in my private forum where a woman was like, I am so angry at God, but I'm afraid that if I express this anger to him,
Mhm.
that he will cut me off and I will not have a relationship with him. And I was like, well, first of all, God knows you're angry at him.
Yeah, right.
Keeping anything from him. I like how you phrased it. If God is, if God is so powerful that he can cut you off, pretty sure he knows you're mad at
He
him.
already
You
knows.
don't have to. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But also, if he's so powerful and if he loves you so much, then why would he cut you off? Right.
Mhm.
And why would he not be able to? Like, that's a pretty emotionally weak being
Yeah,
if he can't handle the anger. Can you handle the
exactly.
anger of your toddler? Yes. So I think pretty sure God can handle your anger, right?
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
okay. Like, you're not, he
Mhm.
doesn't, we don't leave our daughters on the edge of a freeway because they had a temper tantrum and now we just have to cut them off.
Yes.
We don't do that with our
Yeah.
children, and we're speaking.
Decent parents don't, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true. Um, and then also, I just wanted to say, you mentioned that you were an adult daughter who stayed. I think, well, this was a recent episode that we did. Now, by the time this one airs, it'll be a couple of months ago. But if anyone's interested, and you might be interested in knowing this, we did a testimony. Her name, the name of the podcast, the episode was called "Out of the Poison Pond," Jenny's story, and
Hmm.
Jenny was a mom who who was sort of blinded to the whole abuse thing. I mean, she knew that there was something obviously terribly wrong, but she didn't
Hmm.
know really recognize it until her daughter was in her mid 20s, and her
Yeah.
daughter wanted to get a job, and the dad, so she'd never been to college, never worked. And the dad said no.
Yeah.
And that was when that was the mom's wake up call. And she's like, I wasn't willing to fight for me.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I realized I got to fight for my daughter. Something is not right here. And my
Yeah.
daughter deserves to have a life. And
Yeah.
so, and that was the beginning of the end
Mhm.
for her. She ended up getting out
Yeah.
of that marriage.
Yeah. So many women wake up when they see how it's impacting their children.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful and beautiful and totally natural. And I want women to also believe that they deserve to be treated well too.
Exactly.
And
Hopefully, hopefully we're living in an environment now
yes.
that there's enough information out there, and that, I mean, this is going to sound really terrible, but it's like if divorces in Christian environments is on the uprise, I think that's a really good thing, because
it's a great thing.
Yeah, because if we weed out all of the destructive, basically they're really rooted in unbelief and satanic ideas, right? If those kinds of marriages can be set to the side, then we can establish marriages that are built on mutuality and love and fellowship and true alignment with the heart of God. And that's not possible as long as we're clinging, hanging onto this porcupine and refusing to let go of it and start over. So, and we have
this
to do that.
Institutional marriage becomes so important that the individual people within that marriage are suddenly not important at all.
It's just, and that includes our children.
Thing. Yeah.
It includes the children of those marriages.
It absolutely does.
And then one other thing that you said that I wanted to go off a little bit on a tangent on is you mentioned the Bible, that you were, you were getting these ideas from the Bible. And I just, we're doing a Bible study in my Flying Higher program where we're going through the Mirror Bible. Have you ever heard of that translation? Oh, it is unbelievable. It's a newer translation. It's called the Mirror Bible. You can look it up on Amazon. It is the most refreshing. What I'm realizing, it's a study Bible, so there's lots and lots of notes, and they go into the etymologies of words, but they do it in a way that makes it really easy to understand. And it's flipping on its head so many verses that are interpreted. So we're studying it like side by side with traditional versions, so we can see, look at the difference in the tone and what this translation is communicating versus what the Bible actually was communicating from the root, the Greek, because some of those words that are used are selected by certain translators. They are specific. A word can mean a lot of different things. And then depending on the context, it's used in different ways. They're purposefully selecting words to build up this very much power and control and patriarchal thing.
Like there is an agenda behind translations.
100%.
And I learned that in seminary. And I was like, wait. You skipped over that a little bit. Go back.
Seriously.
Say that again, because that is important.
That is so important. And the average person does not have any idea. I had no idea. No idea.
No.
So anyway, it's kind of exciting, but
that's very cool. Yeah, that's very, very cool.
I would check that out. Because you would like, that would be totally up your alley to read that, and just it has just awakened all of us to see that the gospel really is good news. Like, it is the best news, and we are free, and we are loved, and we don't have to do anything anymore. It's already done. Jesus Christ did it all. And I know we pay lip service to that. I know that I heard things like that in my churches, but then also it was like, yes, Jesus did it all. And also you need to da 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 da. And any church that's going to excommunicate you, it's like, I thought Jesus did it all for me. I thought grace, what about all the grace you used to teach, but now I'm being excommunicated? I don't get it. I don't get that at all. So there was so much cognitive dissonance. It's like, it's insanity.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No. And I think like my father, I talk about this in the book as well. My father was so entrenched in this reality that there's only one way to interpret the Bible. And I guess just missed that there's like 900 different translations and how many thousands of different denominations, I guess didn't just miss that part of it, but was so convinced there was a right way and that his way of interpreting the Bible is right. And I remember asking him one time, okay, so if I'm reading the Bible and you're reading the Bible, and we're reading the same thing, and we're both using the Bible to justify our decision, but we come to a different conclusion about what something means, who wins? Like
Yeah.
whose interpretation wins? And he didn't answer me, but I remember him just being so confused because he just didn't. If like you're reading the Bible accurately, you're not gonna, we're all gonna agree. And I was just like, that just,
No,
no, it's just
no.
not reality.
I thought you were going to say something like, well, the one with the penis wins.
The one with the penis wins. Which is what implicitly and explicitly he said on other occasions.
Yeah.
But I think he just wanted us to like use scripture for justification for things so badly. Like that was like a big deal to him. And so it was kind of like, well, what if this scenario happens when I'm doing the thing that he like wanted me to do? And at the time, I'm like, I had like 30 things in my head, right? That I was just like, this isn't adding up. This isn't making sense. But I can't tell him that. Like, I can't say, actually, I don't know that that's actually what that means or whatever.
Well, because you would just end up in a going in circles because
and it would come down to him being his interpretation winning, and him making me feel dumb in some way about something.
Yeah. We had a member tell us also this last weekend. She was like, yeah, I got this letter from my elders, basically chiding me for, I don't remember if it was a separation or a divorce situation, but it was basically she was holding her husband accountable for things. And she got a letter from them. And she said, I'm pretty sure that they prayed over the letter. And yet the conclusion that they got from God, the message that they got from God was so different from the message that I'm getting with God. And so now I'm confused. Like, who's God telling the right message to?
Right.
And I'm like, well, you can get your mail from God. You don't have to get it from other people, because if you are going to look for your mail from God from everybody else, you're going to get a lot of mail, and it's all going to say different things. And it's not. And is that God? I mean, you just need to
I love
focus
that.
on your own
get your mail from God.
Exactly.
Get your mail from God.
Exactly. I don't know why. And plus, they wrote that letter from their frame of reference. And so, they get to have a right to have their own.
Yeah. They probably genuinely believe they're doing the right thing.
Totally. Yeah. But what do you believe? You are the one responsible for deciding what you believe. Yeah. So,
and their beliefs do not supersede your beliefs. Your beliefs are just as important as their beliefs, and they're allowed to believe whatever they want. That's a gift. I feel like on the other side of high control religion is like, I'm not responsible for other people's beliefs.
That's right.
I can believe what I believe, and I don't have to change anybody else. And like, you're so ingrained with like this accountability thing that you have to like save people and like make them believe a certain thing. And like, now it's just like, nope, I am responsible for me. I'm not responsible for making other people agree with me.
Yeah.
And that's very freeing.
It is so freeing.
Cool.
Also, if your God is big enough, I mean, if your God is kind of little and he really depends on you to come through for him, because otherwise he just can't, connect all the dots. Well, then you have to step in for that kind of God. But if your God's really big and pretty much in control and can handle all of this, then you can just be a child playing in the romping through the wilderness, romping through the fields of grace with your Abba Father, and you can let him manage everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah, like what we were taught to do was really sticking up for a very insecure, emotionally immature God. And you're just like, wow, you were really helpless.
I know. We had to really take care of him, didn't we?
Oh, made in their own image.
Exactly. Okay, so let's shift to talking about religious trauma. So how would you describe the difference between religious trauma and just maybe everyone probably has a bad experience here and there in church. Different people, we're dealing with people, so relationships are not always going to be the best, and we might, you might hear a sermon. I mean, are you going to really agree with everything the pastor preaches from the pulpit? Probably not. So what's the difference though?
Yeah, the difference between religious trauma and a term that Dr. Laura Anderson, I believe, was coined the term adverse religious experiences. And the difference between the two is trauma is the reaction that our body has and what is stored in our nervous system when we have a traumatic situation. It is something that is too much, too fast, too soon, and it gets stored in our nervous system, gets trapped there to the point that like we didn't get to complete the stress cycle, we didn't get to resolve this thing, and it's kind of trapped in our body. So then when something happens that mirrors that or looks like that or reminds us of that situation that happened, that bad situation that happened, then our body reacts with a survival response to that situation, registering it as dangerous. An adverse religious experience might be abusive. It might just be something that's uncomfortable. It might just be something we don't agree with. It might just be somebody was a human being and made a mistake or whatever. But it doesn't necessarily have to land as trauma. It might, and if it lands as trauma, it is really, there's a lot of factors that would lead to it landing as trauma for somebody, and a lot of it has to do with power and how much power we feel in the situation. Which I work almost exclusively with women, and you do too. And women, because of the patriarchal structures of these higher control environments, tend to have a lot more trauma because they don't have a ton of power in this space to resolve these situations. And so two people can be sitting in the same pew, hear the same sermon, and for somebody it lands as trauma, and it is traumatizing, and it gets trapped in their body. And for somebody else, it's like one goes in one ear, right out the other. Same sermon, same message. Might also be harmful, but for someone it's trauma and someone it's not. Doesn't mean the person that it lands as trauma that they're weaker or there's something wrong with them. It kind of just speaks to how much power they had in the situation, and did they get to move through it in that space.
Yeah. I want to come back to that whole idea of moving through trauma, but before we do that, and how you move through trauma. What you just said reminded me of I actually wrote a blog post about it. It's a few years ago now, but I was going to a church. This was after I was excommunicated, started going to a different church, and the pastor preached a sermon that I knew that women who were sitting in the pews, it was kind of a meta experience for me because I was filtering it through their eyes because that's my filter. It wasn't impacting me in any kind of traumatic way because I had already worked through a lot of stuff, but I could feel the energy in the room. And I could feel that there were a lot of women sitting in there who were taking that in, and it was a very much a shutting down experience. Like they were being shut down. And so I emailed him and I told him what it was that I told him specifically. I took very copious notes and I said, when you said this is how these women under these circumstances would have heard. This is what they heard. You said this, and I know you probably didn't mean this, but this is what they heard. And then when you said this is what they heard. And I went through everything and spelled out for him because I was trying to show him.
I'm trying to help you.
Exactly. Like this is at least a third of the congregation that's that's hearing it this way, maybe more. Yeah. So you need to know it. I think it's important that you know that this is how they're, even if you had just gave a couple of caveats and I gave him some ideas, that would have softened the blow and helped unhook them from the message that you were giving so that they wouldn't have landed the same way. But you didn't do that. But, I suggest maybe, you might want to try to do that next time so that you can love these people well, that you call your faith family, right?
Yeah.
He came back. He was a total wolf in sheep's clothing. He came back on the attack, like majorly attack. He pretended that he was being victimized by me. I was just like, what? He wanted me to come and meet with him and the elder board. I'd never met this guy or talked to this guy at all. And I was like,
he was threatened.
He was so mad. Well, he ended up getting the boot. The elder board actually ended up booting him out because he was doing bad things with money in the church too. So he
Yeah,
was not a good person, but he was had lots of charisma. He was one of those very
sure.
and
Absolutely.
he had grown the church like
Yeah. I know the
exponentially.
type. Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was
Yep.
exactly like that. And I
Yeah.
remember the first time I ever heard him, I was like, there's something off with this guy, but I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
put my finger on it, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone like worshiped the ground he walked on. And you know what he ended up
Yeah.
doing? He went away for a year and then he came back and just started another church in
Yep,
the
of
same
course he
area.
did. Of course he did. Because he
And
had
then,
the same skill set to like, draw people in and
yeah.
build a big congregation. And most people are attracted to that. And I wouldn't be surprised if what he was saying in that sermon, like he was actually being intentional, like
Oh,
as a form of control.
I could never prove it because I never met his wife, but I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I know what's going on in that
Yeah. Yeah.
relationship.
You told on yourself in
Yeah,
that sermon.
exactly. Exactly. All right,
Yeah.
so let's talk. Can you explain? You talked about how if people aren't able to move through trauma or going through that stress, the stress. What's the word?
Stress cycle.
Stressors.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stress
Complete the
cycle.
stress cycle.
Why
Yeah.
don't you talk about that? Because I'm sure there are women here or that are listening right now that are like, well, how do I do that? Because I think I've got that issue inside of my body, but I don't know how to like get
Mm-hmm.
rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a trauma response, so there's a survival response and there's a trauma response. Survival response, we are supposed to have a survival response, right? When we're in danger. And our reptilian brain does not know the difference between I am being attacked by a lion and my life is in danger and an emotionally dangerous situation. We're going to have a very similar survival response, which is the fight or flight or freeze or please and appease, which is very common in high control spaces for women.
Yeah.
We go into how do I please you? How do I make you happy? How do I and so that is our body doesn't know the difference between my life is in danger and that my and so we have a similar reaction in that situation. We're supposed to have that response when we're in danger.
Mhm.
When we're in a trauma response, we're not actually in danger. Something has happened to make us feel like we're in danger. And so we have to communicate to our body in some way that you had that reaction at this time because you actually were in danger. And we have to figure out a way to communicate to our body that we're allowed to release that because we're not actually in danger now. Many different like somatic ways of approaching our bodies to do this, but one of them is if that trauma is trapped in our body, we didn't actually fully escape that situation, and we don't actually believe that we have left that situation and we are out of that dangerous situation. And so one way, and maybe even, and this happens a lot in high control religious spaces, like I get abused by a pastor and then I go tell my friend that it happened. And my friend doesn't believe me, invalidates it, doesn't agree that this happened, um, like tries to justify why the pastor would do that, blah, 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 blah. That situation, the pastor is now stuck in my body because I didn't get it out. I didn't get it processed. I didn't have a chance to have that validated. A very different situation is I'm abused by a pastor. I go tell a friend, my friend is up in arms. That is crazy. That should never have happened. I cannot believe that happened to you. Validating the feelings, validating the experience. Like we are like, let's get out of here. We're writing a letter. We're done. We're getting out of here. And we get to escape the situation. We get to remove ourselves from the situation. We get to complete the stress cycle in that situation. We didn't have that experience when that trauma got strapped in our body. So we have to recreate that opportunity. And just a very simple thing is it's like the exercise of like, if you have a song stuck in your head, the fastest way to get it out of your head is to listen to the song all the way through.
Yeah.
You have this thing that's coming up in you. The fastest way to let it process itself is to let it say what it needs to say.
Yeah.
And give it the validation and the care and the tenderness that it's needed at the time that the event happened. And that can look it's very, very different. It also, if we have like chronic situations, which spiritual abuse tends to be chronic, 1,000 tiny paper cuts over a long period of time. So that's not going to be just like one event and, oh, we validated and we're moving on. It's going to continue to rise up and giving ourselves the compassion that we deserved at the time that these events happened is just one way of helping our bodies complete that stress cycle in a time when we're not in danger anymore. And you have to not be in danger, right? Like we can't complete the stress cycle if we're still in danger. So that's a really important part of the process.
Yeah. If the lion is still standing over you, you're probably not going to be able to complete the stress.
Yeah. And we probably shouldn't, right? Because our body's doing what it's supposed to do and telling us we are in danger.
That's right. There's a quote that I pulled from Peter Levine, and I stuck it in my book, All the Scary Little Gods, that says that trauma is what happens in the absence of an empathetic witness. So you need to have an empathetic witness to help you to just like you said, to validate what you've experienced. That friend that comes along and is like, I can't believe it, blah, 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 and I'm going to help you. That is what you need, but not everyone has that, especially if all of your friends are all drinking the same Kool-Aid and you're all in the same poison. So a picture that helped me figure that out was when I got excommunicated, because that was a traumatic experience for me to get excommunicated. I was a good Christian girl, like quintessential good Christian girl my entire life, served in the church, gave my money to the church, invested my whole entire life in the church. And all of a sudden I get excommunicated because I said no to a bad marriage finally, and this is after years of me begging for help. Please, somebody please help me. But how I pictured it is I thought that the church was the world. And I found out when I got excommunicated, because they kicked me out of their sandbox. I found out it was just a sandbox. And their sandbox was built on the shore of the ocean that you could not see one side of you looked down this side of the shore and it went on forever. And you looked down that side of the shore and it went on forever. And the sandbox was this little tiny box with a few little 6-year-old boys in it who were the king poobahs in the box. Right.
Yep.
And they said, you can't play with this anymore, Natalie, you have to leave. And I was so sad until I got out of the box and looked around and God was like, Natalie, I got a big surprise for you.
Look.
Like, oh yeah, exactly.
Yes.
The whole entire beach belongs to you. It belongs to you. And look around you. There are lots of people on the beach and they are all ready to play with you. You don't need
love
those
it. Yeah. Love that picture. Yeah. Absolutely love that picture.
So that really helped my internal nervous system unhook from that trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then too, I love the name of your new book, 1,000 Tiny Paper Cuts. When I think about my book, All the Scary Little Gods, it's like that was my telling in trying to tell in a way that wouldn't like overwhelm people, about the tiny paper cuts and how they happen while you're growing up and the little subtle ways that they happen when you're growing up. And it's like little tiny, call it a cut or a little stitch or a little whatever and it stitches together this story that creates the perfect storm, I guess, really. Yeah. And getting unhooked from that and healing from all those cuts is really important. Okay, we're going to shift to patriarchy.
Dun,
so
dun, dun, dun.
I love talking about the patriarchy.
Yes.
I remember when I was I'm sure you do too, in circles where patriarchy was, we love patriarchy. Right. Like that word was a golden word. And I just had no idea. I think ignorance about church history and about world history, even really,
it's not new.
I know. It's not. So how has it influenced our theology in our modern evangelicalism today?
Yeah. Well, I would say when we talked at the beginning of that idea of God doesn't want your happiness, he wants your holiness, that being kind of the mechanism of control, especially for women,
Mm-hmm.
to uphold a patriarchal system. Because if you're in
Yeah.
a bad marriage, well, God doesn't want your happiness, he wants your holiness. And this is, refining you, and this is helping you, serve the Lord, and all of that kind of stuff. That messaging keeps women trapped in bad marriages. It keeps women and people trapped in these abusive church
Yep.
environments. It works. It
Yeah.
totally works. And patriarchy is almost always at the heart of high control religious environments, of cults. Like, even if a cult is led by a woman, there's still a patriarchal element. And like, it's just that being such a huge component of these issues. And I was in a cult, the Christian patriarchy movement, that was like, men are the head, women, wives are the sex slaves, and they take care of the kids.
Yeah.
And then the kids are there to fulfill their father's vision until they marry and create, other little fiefdoms. And it was basically just gave fathers, men, the license to create their own little family cult. It was
Yeah.
very overt. Then I get out of that and I go into these churches that were like, men and women are equal. They just have different roles. And I thought it was so much better. I thought it was so much better. I was like, oh,
Did
they're
we
not
have the
telling me
exact same journey? I just want to know.
the exact same thing.
Were we living
Exactly.
on the same plane?
Yes. And I thought it was so much better. I
Yeah.
thought it was so much better. And I'm in these churches that are telling me I can't be an elder and I can't be a pastor. I'm like, that's okay. As long as I can like do ministry, which is the thing that I was going to seminary to do and getting trained for. I don't need the path. I don't need the title. I'm okay. Then
Yeah.
I realized the title gives you respect. The title gives you a pay bump. The title gives you a seat on the board to like be able to make decisions and to vote. And it took me a really long time to like recognize the same thing that's happening in this Christian patriarchy cult that I grew up in is happening here too. It's just so much more subtle and so much nicer. And they're never going to tell you straight up like men are superior to women, but that's what they believed
Yep.
underneath. And it was so much harder to parse out because it was so much more subtle, which then makes me feel like it's also more dangerous because you can't see it as clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you run in John Piper circles or reformed theology?
Yeah, that was a part of that was there. He was one of the fathers, the founding
Yeah.
fathers
Yeah.
of,
Yeah. That
yes,
was the church that I got excommunicated from.
from John Piper's
Yeah.
church.
From
Yeah.
his
Oh,
church.
fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, I must not remember it very well, but I think it's online where he's trying to explain how you would ask directions from a woman if you were forced to do that. And there's a way that women are supposed to give directions to a man so as not to overstep their authority.
What?
I know. No,
But
there's
also,
he's got a
I
lot of
believe
really
you.
whack things out there.
Yeah. I
But
remember being in seminary, and I was in a complementarian seminary that believed in complementarianism, but it was also like a bunch of millennials too, and so we were kind of on this like, how do we feel about this? And there was a recent quote from John Piper that was like, it's fine if women write theological books. We just need to make sure that it doesn't sound like a woman. And everyone was just like
what?
cracking up. They were like, what the fuck? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't know how he's still relevant in this world today. I don't know how he still has a platform. I honestly don't. It's
Yes, a
so
lot. I
weird.
mean, it feeds a lot of egos for these small little men.
I
So,
suppose. I suppose
yeah,
it's that sandbox. They're
yes,
still
absolutely.
throwing sand from their little
Yeah.
sandbox there. I'm glad they're having fun though. Um,
For the good old time over there.
okay, let's talk about the stay-at-home daughter movement. I mean, that is pretty fringy, but
Yeah.
I ran in first Bill Gothard circles, but then
Yes.
I was into the whole Vision Forum thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was where the stay-at-home daughter thing came in for
Mhm.
me. I don't know
Yeah.
if it was for you as well.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember there was a time when my daughter, who right now, my daughter who did graduate from college and
Mhm.
actually is going to eventually be a nurse here. And she's, we've completely shifted our entire
Yeah.
focus. So all my daughters can get an education if they want to. But way back when she was maybe, 5 or 6, I was thinking, yeah, I don't think we're going to have her. Why would we have her go to college? She's going to have
Yeah.
children and stay at home.
Yeah.
So, and as she grew up, thank God I got out of it because she's not that. I mean, she's pregnant with her second child, but that is all she wants to have. And being a mom,
It's just not who she is.
she is
Yeah.
the best mom. And
Yeah.
also, she needs to get out there. She needs
Absolutely.
to be out there doing stuff with other people
Mhm. And
also.
she's
And
probably a better mom
she
because
is.
she gets to do those
Yes,
things.
yes.
Yeah.
She is the mom that I wish that I could have been, that I feel like my beliefs just kind of, my beliefs, they they had me, I was totally brainwashed.
Yeah.
And I even even while I was doing things in my parenting, I was thinking, this isn't right, but I don't know what else there is. Like
Yes.
I'm just doing
Exactly.
what I know, and I'm doing
Yeah.
it even though there was so much, it just completely did not align
Yeah.
with my core values in so many
Hmm.
ways, but I could not figure it out. It's like I can't
Yeah.
even describe the feeling, but it's like drowning and not knowing that you're drowning, but you kind of know that you're drowning.
And
It's
then you're also like, you're kind of abusing yourself, right? Because you're like forcing yourself to
yes,
like do
to do
something that
these
you don't
things.
want to do. And
Yes.
like, and that's like the genius of these systems, right? They get us to abuse ourselves, they get us to police ourselves, they
Yeah.
get us to shame ourselves.
Yeah.
And then
And
they're like,
so much fear. Like
yes.
just tremendous fear of your kids
Yeah.
going to hell and your kids
Hmm.
not. So anyway, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What is Christian patriarchy? How does it relate to the stay-at-home daughter movement?
Yeah.
Where did the stay-at-home daughter movement come from? And
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're one and the same. The Christian patriarchy movement, the stay-at-home daughter movement, like that's kind of the model is, fathers become, the heads of the homes, the daughters stay home to serve their father until they get married. They're never not out from underneath the authority of a man. And so that's kind of the makeup of it. The stay-at-home daughter part of it, I don't know who coined it, but my friend and colleague Kate West, whose memoir Rift is about her experience in the stay-at-home daughter movement, she was the first person that I encountered on Instagram talking about it, and she was the one I first heard use that term, and I was like, "There's a word for us." There's a term, and that's so important, right? After these experiences, to have language
yeah, like
to
people on the
name it.
outside are talking about you guys.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't think the Christian patriarchy movement coined that term. I think those
Okay.
of us who left started using that term to describe
Okay.
us, because
Okay.
it's kind of derogatory, right? It doesn't like sound good.
Well, what was
Like,
that? Did you see that documentary that the Botkin sisters put together many, many years ago? A video.
so much
Yeah,
more,
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
wrote a book and then they kind of did a video on it. Did you see
Yeah,
that?
I think about them. I don't know if I watched the video. I did get the book, as like a graduation gift or something,
Yeah.
and it was all about just like making you're the crown of your father's head, and like
Hmm.
making your father look good. And I think about them all the time because I knew them, like I met them like through Vision Forum, and these are
Hmm.
the older women who are like showing us the way. And I just think about them and I'm just like, are they happy?
No, I
Like
think they
I
broke out. I think they broke out.
Really?
Yeah. I
They're
think that
out?
yeah, I think they're both on their own now. And because I
Really?
don't know
I
that
need to go stalk them
yeah,
somewhere.
no, the last I heard, which was a few years ago, but I have a connection through my ex, who is sister, my ex's sister, her and her husband, their son married a cousin of one of the Botkin sisters.
And so you get
And yeah,
updates.
so I just was at a wedding for my niece out in California. Was it California? And I saw the cousin And I was asking her, how are they doing? And I don't remember, she didn't give any details, but she said that it sounded like they were doing well and they kind of broken out of that whole thing and were on their own now.
Whoa.
So,
I need to go
well,
like
can
see
you
if I can find
imagine?
this
I mean, you get to
Kardashian
be, I don't
thing.
know, 35, 40 years old. You're
Right?
like, I think I need to, I think it's time for me to
It's
build my
not
own life.
working. Like something's not
Exactly.
working
Exactly.
here.
It's so ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was glad to hear that. And
Oh
I
yeah.
saw like I just saw, I don't even know how I saw this, but Shoshana Pearl. Have you
Pearl.
remember the
Oh yeah,
Pearl?
yeah. Is she a daughter of the
Yeah, she
Pearls?
was one of
Okay.
the daughters. She is divorced, has 4 kids, and she talks about divorce and her beautiful life now that she's out of her abusive relationship. And so, these
Wow.
children, like these people who set these
Uh-huh.
whole things up and did their and really experimented honestly
Yes, it
on
really
their
was.
own progeny
Hmm.
have their experiments all failed,
Yes.
and the people and those kids are breaking out and breaking those cycles in those families, and
Hmm.
I just think it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And like you even telling me that they have like broken out and they've gone out, I like, oh, that just makes me so happy because like I don't I'm like they're probably like me in that they don't even have a category for happiness. They're not even like asking if that's even a thing
Yeah.
or do I even deserve that?
Well,
And
I don't think that I didn't get the impression that they were like, and I don't know. Again, I don't know the details. I didn't get the impression that it was like a rebellious thing or
mhm,
like a I don't have any contact with my family anymore kind of thing. I got the
yeah,
impression more like it was just, we've outgrown this, we're moving on and,
yeah,
doing our own thing
we're
now.
doing something
And
else. Okay.
still intact with the family and
Yeah,
everything's fine. I think maybe the whole family has probably evolved a little bit,
sure.
hopefully. And
Absolutely.
which is a good thing. I don't run in any of those circles anymore
Right.
for obvious
Right.
reasons, so I don't really know. Well, I mean, Vision Forum, I guess, broke up.
Yeah.
The Bill Gothard thing has
Yeah.
kind of been falling apart for several
Yes.
years. So,
Absolutely.
things that are dumb, just eventually you play
Yeah.
stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right?
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Yeah, and it just yeah, but it does leave a lot of damage in the wake,
Yeah.
especially for the women. And then for the men in those spaces, the next generation, which is really sad to me, of watching the men in those spaces, even though they saw how their sister suffered and their mother suffered, creating the same dynamics.
Yeah.
I know I it's happening again. Like there is a new generation of it growing and being out there because it is so tantalizing, right? To very weak, insecure men. It like
Yeah.
gives them so much power over a very small group of people and they don't have to do jack shit for it. And so it is very seductive to a certain group of people and it still exists and people are still being harmed by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel I feel better about it only because there is information now. I
Yes,
back when I was
I
a
didn't have
new
any
mom,
either. Yeah,
there wasn't any information. There
yeah,
wasn't I mean, I had small children when the internet
yeah.
became a thing.
Yeah.
And so there was nothing, there were no books written about it.
Hmm.
Now we have, so there is information out there. There's help.
Yeah.
If I was to Google now versus
Hmm.
when I Googled the first time 14 years ago, I would find help now.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
And there's a lot of
I didn't really find anything
yeah.
back then. So I do think that for people who are searching and seeking for answers, and eventually you will. When you're young you don't,
Hmm.
because you just know what you know
Hmm.
and that's all you care about. But as you get older and it doesn't work, and this does not work, it
It
just
doesn't.
doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't work, you at least those people will be able to Google and get therapy
Hmm.
and figure it out, and they'll be able to get help much
Yeah.
faster
And you can
than
go
some of
to
us.
a library and Google safely.
Exactly.
You're not IP's not being tracked. Like
Yes.
I
I've
I
even
remember like Googling things in my father's home and like deleting my history, but then my father was an engineer, so I was like he has the capacity to like find, like just being fearful, right? That
Yeah.
he was gonna find it. He was
Yeah.
gonna
Oh my
question
gosh.
me on it. But yes, there's so much more information
Yeah.
in the world about like your information, Tears of Eden, your books, my books, like they're there. People
Yeah.
can get
Yeah.
them.
And I
Yeah.
have noticed that the age demographic of people that are joining my program is going down slowly.
Like they're younger.
Yeah, there's younger people are
Yeah.
starting to come in. And
Yeah.
I think it's because they're learning about it sooner.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to hear
Yeah.
that.
I mean, do you feel
Yes.
like what is the age, what is the basic, maybe average age of the women that you're helping in your past?
They're around my age, I would say, in
Okay.
their late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
So
So that's
yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't start waking up until my mid 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
there
No,
wasn't very
that's
much
good to
help
know.
back then. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, and there are definitely a lot of women early 30s who are waking up and just just starting to ask the questions.
That's
And
amazing.
so yeah,
Because I mean, 20 is anyways is just a
yes,
very confusing time for anybody in
absolutely.
any walk of life. So okay,
Yeah.
so 20s doesn't count. But you get in your 30s, if you can find help right away in your early 30s, then you're good.
Yes. Yes. You should
You
be
got
good
your
to
whole
go.
life ahead of you.
You should be good to go. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point that that folks are a little bit younger finding help.
So how long have you been out of this whole thing?
Yeah, out of the Christian patriarchy movement, probably about 12 or 13 years.
Okay.
Out of the complementarian religious world, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are you located in the
I
country?
lived in St. Louis
Okay.
in the
All right.
middle of the state.
Yeah. Kind of in
Yeah.
the middle of the states.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about where we can find your work and what you do? So, in case anyone wants to work for
Yeah.
you, they can find you easily.
Absolutely. So my book is coming out, A Thousand Tiny Paper Cuts.
It'll be
That's
out by the
available.
time this airs. It'll
All
be
right,
on
great.
Amazon, so you can go right over there and buy it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So yeah, October 14th. So that is available wherever you buy books. And then the nonprofit that I run is called Tears of Eden. And then I also work with private clients, doing trauma recovery, and most of my clients are women who have been impacted by high control religious patriarchal systems. And you can find me on Instagram at Katherine Spearing, and then my website is katherinespearing.com.
All right. That sounds great. I will make sure to put all of those links in the
Thank
show
you so
notes.
much. It
Yeah.
was a delight to get to talk to you,
It was so
and
fun
thank
to
you
talk with you
so
too.
much. Thank you so much for all of your work. I do send folks your way, just as have a sounding board.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, fly free.